What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Formula One Gridlock podcast. My name, of course, is Nathan Charles, and I'm here with my co-host Chase Bozung. Chase, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Going through, a lot of COVID stuff, but doing good.
Yes, Chase has been sick for the past few weeks. I moved, and obviously, school starting, college is starting for most people across the country, as well as for me. So these last few weeks have been pretty hectic, but we're ready to get back into the podcast game. And honestly, Chase, I think we're ready to take it over, don't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude. Best F1 podcast ever.
You know it. All right. Well, let's take a look behind us, Chase, at the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. We've got another race coming up again this weekend, so we'll probably be back here recording again, but
yeah,
let's take a look. So, first place, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. So Sebastian Vettel finished the race in second place, but he was disqualified afterwards due to fuel consumption in his car. So second place goes to Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes. Third place, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Fourth place, Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. Fifth place, Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. Sixth place, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. Seventh place, Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. Eighth place, George Russell in the Williams. Ninth place, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. 10th place, Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo. 11th place, Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. 12th place, Mick Schumacher in the Haas. And 13th place, Antonio Giovinazzi in the second Alfa Romeo. We had quite a few DNFs in this race. We've got Nikita Mazepin in the Haas, out. Lando Norris in the McLaren, out. Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, out. Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, out. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, and Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. That's 6 DNFs. Plus,
and then a DQ.
And then the DQ from Sebastian Vettel. Sucks when almost half the grid gets taken out of the race in the first lap, but managed to stay a somewhat decent race, I think. Don't you think, Chase?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Chase, let's just get into it. Give me your one-word description.
My one word is kind of going off of what you literally just said. I couldn't choose one word just because the word I wanted to go with wasn't one word. The first one was dreadfully interesting, but I also kind of have like morbid curiosity, just kind of that vibe going on for this race.
Yeah, it was tough to watch after the first. Pretty much the first corner, big crash takes out almost half the grid, and then the rest of the race, while interesting, was somewhat uninteresting.
Well, and not just that, like it just kept getting worse. Like you mentioned, 6 DNFs and a DQ. A DNF happened outside of the first lap, and then the DQ happened outside of the race. Like every step this race, just like there was something where it was like, oh, that's no good whatsoever,
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just picked kind of the word uninteresting because to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I would love to see, like, I watch these races really for McLaren. Like, I'm a McLaren guy. I would love to see McLaren do well. But, I mean, in that, I'm also a big Lando Norris fan. I want to see Lando Norris in there fighting for top 5. And if he's out, right,
yeah,
he's out of the race. There goes kind of my main reason to watch these. My second main reason is I want to see Verstappen and I want to see Hamilton at the front. And let's be honest. Okay, Max got hit in this crash, but he didn't go out. But his car was crippled. I mean, one of his barge boards was messed up, and the arrow on the car was just off. He wasn't going at full speed. Like, he had no shot.
He was essentially out.
He was essentially out.
He was lucky he didn't fully DQ. But besides that, he was driving a car that was worse than a Haas.
Absolutely. So for me, I'm super happy for Esteban Ocon taking the win. It's his first win in Formula One. Congrats to him. Congrats to Alpine. I'm super glad for him. But the race just didn't interest me, Chase. I don't know what to tell you.
That's fair. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, Chase, let's switch. Let's talk drivers. Give me your driver of the day.
I wrote down a lot because for me personally, there's a lot of things to be pointed out, and the obvious one is like Akon won, and he's not a rookie, but he's not someone who should be winning.
He's
Not
young, yeah.
to be mean, but that's just the place he is at. That's the obvious racer of the day, but I'll get back to why I didn't fully choose him. I also chose uh, Alonso because he had some really fun fights. I chose I think some of the things Mick Schumacher did shows you that it's his Haas that makes him back of the grid every single round rather than he's a bad driver.
Sure.
I'm specifically referencing like his fighting with like Hamilton and Verstappen, like keeping them at bay. He like you could tell based off of what he was doing, he's a good driver. Then I think I chose I forget who else I chose. Oh, I chose Vettel. I'm looking at here like who that I chose, and I couldn't find Vettel's name because DQ.
Yeah. It's a real shame with the
Mm-hmm.
DQ because I mean that's nothing he can control. Like he drove a great
Nope.
race. Like
Yeah, I agree.
getting second place in that Aston Martin is pretty good. Unfortunately,
Yeah, and he didn't just waltz into it.
no. And I heard like the margins on his DQ were like
Mm-hmm.
because of obviously he didn't have enough fuel in his car at the end of the race. Just
Yeah,
one of those silly rules. Honestly, that they
yeah. The
this sport.
technical rule is that they're allowed to take 1 liter of fuel at any point during the race, and if you cannot give them 1 liter of fuel, you're DQ'd. They usually take it at the end, but the rule is set up so that way, like they could do it lap 2 if they wanted to.
Yeah. And I heard like he was like they were like just underneath it, like just like barely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that's really tough for Vettel. He did drive a great race.
yeah.
Anybody else?
That was kind of it. I know I'm breaking a lot of rules this week, but
Yeah,
I
you
didn't want to
had
choose Akon, and I can get into that real quick. Mainly because this is the we saw this a while ago with Perez in 2020. These people who shouldn't be winning win, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, they're actually goaded," and it's like 6 drivers were DQ'd or would DNF'd, and one was DQ'd. In those 6 drivers, or those 7 total drivers, 6 of them are top 10 drivers.
yep.
So it's like I get he had an amazing race. I'm not saying I'm not saying he didn't deserve the win. It's just when literally the only person who should win the literally there's only one person left who should win the race, and it was Hamilton. And he had so many mess ups, so we know why he didn't win the race.
Yeah.
So I hate to be cynical about it, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like your competition left.
I understand where you're coming from. I think you like the teams on the outskirts are like their whole game plan is they pick up points on the edges when they can, right?
Yeah,
They're especially Alpine. Like Alpine is like if they can get a 9-10, an 8-9, golly, even like a 8 or like a 7-8, like that's a great weekend for them.
yeah, I agree.
It's
Totally.
these races, these times where somebody goes in on that first corner and takes out half the top grid or half of the top 10. These are the races that they are poised to strike. And I think he did a great job. So I
Yeah,
personally
I
like if my pick was Lewis, and we can get into that later. But if
yeah,
Lewis hadn't had a quality race, I probably would have picked Ocon because I think like yes, if those other drivers were still on the grid, he would not have won this race. He wasn't fantastic like that. Like he wasn't passing people. He ended up in front and he managed to stay there. And all the credit to him.
yeah.
But that's what he's supposed to do. He did exactly what he was supposed
I
to do.
agree, and I'm not saying he didn't, and I'm not saying he didn't have a great race. Hold on, my mom's like yelling outside my door,
No problem.
and uh, I get it. I'm not saying that he didn't have a good race. You see my point, right? When first, second, third, fourth, counting Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, Bottas, fifth, Perez, when all of those guys are gone, I get he did his job. he did what he was supposed to, and he had an amazing race. And I'm not trying to take that away from him. I'm just saying everyone did this with Gasly. They said he's a goated driver, but they're setting up this like statistical thing where if you leave out half of the facts, it sounds really cool. I get Ocon did amazing, and I'm not taking that from him, but it's not like he beat out Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris, Bottas, Perez. He didn't beat out all of those guys. He beat out Hamilton and Vettel, which is a good feat. I don't know. I'm saying the same things, but I guess
No,
that's my point.
I get where you're coming from. So I picked Lewis as my driver of the day. I think he had a fantastic race. So
Mm-hmm.
Lewis at the restart was the only driver to not go in for
Mm-hmm.
slicks. He stayed on his wet tires and obviously paid the price.
Yeah, heavily.
The guys on the slicks are quite a bit faster. He got caught up too. He then had to pit, of course, get slicks, and basically restarted the race at the back of the pack.
Oh yeah,
Managed to that was, to be fair, that was only like what 4 laps in. So he
yeah.
basically had the entire rest of the race to climb back up the standings in the fastest car on the grid, of course, which he did. And I mean, Lewis Hamilton is. We always get it twist. Like I don't necessarily like Lewis Hamilton, but I do have to give him props. I mean, the man knows how to drive a Formula One car, and I think he showed it
I
today.
completely
Not a
agree.
lot of drivers could do what he did today. All right,
To go down what you're saying, basically he was handed every reason to not get close on podium, but he still did it.
absolutely, absolutely, fantastic race from him. All right, Chase, let's talk teams. Who do you got? Who's your team?
I chose Alpine. They like it's the obvious choice. Not only like you said, did they do what they were supposed to, but for a while Alonso was looking at podium. And even though he didn't get it, he got fourth place still. He fought off Hamilton, so that way Hamilton couldn't go like fight Ocon and stuff. I think Alpine did an amazing job here. They one of them one of them got to the front of the pack early in the race, and they just kept it. They did everything to keep it, and they kept it.
I tend to agree. I think that's a great pick. I mean, yeah, like I said, Alpine, like these teams on the outskirts, they're just waiting for one of these races to get a bunch of points. And
And
who
they
knows? I
did.
mean, we might be looking back on this at the end of the season and saying, wow, Alpine got fifth all because Esteban Ocon won that race. Like,
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah,
Um,
it's big. It Icon went from like only having like 18 points to now he's at 38 points and he's like in the top 10 people or something.
could be interesting for later in the season. My team of the day, Chase. There were a couple I was looking at. Obviously, Mercedes did a good job with Lewis Hamilton getting him on the right tires. But I had to pick AlphaTauri. I love my boy Yuki Tsunoda, and
Mm-hmm.
I just like it when the underdogs, when the B team, let's be honest, the B team,
Yeah.
for Red Bull does well, and they outscored Red Bull this weekend. Pierre
Yeah.
Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda with Sebastian Vettel, excuse me, with his DQ up in second place, bumps them up to fifth and sixth finish, which is Yuki Tsunoda's best finish ever in Formula
Mm-hmm.
One with 8 points. So, congrats to him. And I think that AlphaTauri have to be buzzing. I mean,
I would
they
be.
both of their drivers stayed out of trouble. They stayed together. They beat who they were supposed to beat. They beat the Williams. They beat the Alfa Romeo. Surprisingly enough, they beat Daniel Ricciardo in the Mercedes. But we can talk about that
Yeah.
later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but honestly, like they stayed right where they were supposed to. They had no mishaps. They had no mishaps. There was a lot. Let's be honest. This was a pretty hectic race,
Yeah.
so I don't think they were really involved in anything. I think AlphaTauri have to be very, very happy with both of their drivers on this weekend.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. All right, let's shift focus, Chase. There was a lot of bad, Chase. There was a lot of bad this weekend.
Lots.
What was the worst? What was the worst of the weekend?
I couldn't choose. As I watched the race, every
You
time I was like, oh man, that's the worst. It just kept getting beat with obviously excluding the outlier of Bottas taking out 4 drivers. And I'll touch on that briefly. I I blame him and I don't. It's a wet track. It's high stakes. You break half a second too late. That's 500 milliseconds lost, and you're into the back of the car in front of you. It's a tough race, but like that sucked. The watching as much as I don't really care for Mazepin at all, watching him get removed from the race for no reason because someone on Raikkonen's team, not Raikkonen in my opinion, messes up and releases Raikkonen early, and Mazepin gets hit for it, and then personally seeing them penalize Raikkonen for that, where it's like it's not his job to know when to leave the pit. He's just told to leave and he leaves. So
Yeah.
that, and then let's see, there's something else. Oh, and then Vettel just getting DQ'd because of once again something out of his hand.
Yeah.
And I'd almost argue out of the team's hand because now I'm going off of a trust thing here. I doubt Aston Martin is doing something with their engine that they shouldn't be, i.e., consuming more gas than they should be. I think it comes down to they had to restart the race. There were so many other things, and just fuel burns and laps aren't calculated well enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. I mean, this is a sport of milliseconds, right? This isn't a sport
Mm-hmm.
of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't even really a sport of seconds. It's a sport of milliseconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sport of such thin margins. These guys are going to run everything to the absolute limit. And when you
Uh-huh.
have such a chaotic race like this, it's just, there's no way you can accurately calculate
Yeah.
the fuel consumption in the car. And yeah, I mean,
And it's up to the FIA to say, hey, we crashed. The engines have been running this long. We're gonna bring X amount of laps off. So I kind of say it's their fault for not bringing enough laps off.
that's interesting. Blame the game. Don't blame the player.
Yeah,
That's,
what is Vettel supposed to do? Not hold the gas as he goes over the line or something?
I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, you would think that you'd think that the FIA would also would be looking at that and be understanding
Yeah.
of how the race is going, how it's going to affect. But we haven't. I mean, not they're not contesting it. None of the other teams are saying hey, this would
Yeah.
be a different conversation if 4 other teams had the exact same issue and we saw a bunch of DQs.
Yeah.
Then I would kind of be more on your side. But the fact that it was only Aston Martin, I'm just kind of well, it is what it is. It was unfortunate, but
That's
it's a rule for a reason.
I am too, and I'm just annoyed that that's how it played out. I don't blame the FIA for doing it because they are enforcing it, so that way when it happens illegally on purpose, it is enforced. But it just made me sad because Vettel had a great race, and it's same thing with Raikkonen. It's something out of the driver's hands. They had no say in it, so it was
Yeah.
just sad for me to see. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great worst, Chase. A lot better than mine because I was very general with mine. I literally just wrote down the race. Just the race was kind of the worst. I think this was probably the worst race we've had in probably. This was probably the worst race of the first half, in my opinion. It
It
was just.
it might even be the worst race of the season at this point. It was
It's
a terrible
possible.
race.
It just was wholly uninteresting to me. I just,
Yeah.
like I said, that first corner, all my interest in this race kind of went out the door, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that makes me not a good F1 fan, but that's I'm here to tell you how I feel, Chase. I'm here to be real with you, Chase, and that's
Yeah,
how I felt.
exactly.
That's how I felt. All right, Chase, you got a question for me? Shoot.
Into the paddock?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go inside the paddock, brother.
Yeah, and it was a question I had for our podcast a couple weeks ago, but we never got to it, which is fine. But it works perfectly for what happened this week because it's that same line of thought that I have.
Yeah.
Is Pierre Gasly actually that good? And by that, I'm not comparing him to someone. I'm saying everyone says Gasly's goated. He's top 5 drivers on the grid right now. Is he that good?
Essentially, this question is Pierre Gasly overrated?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. My initial instinct is yes. I
Mm-hmm.
think whenever a driver in a mid tier car wins a race that they're really not supposed to win, like obviously like Ocon did this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and like Pierre Gasly did in, was it Monza?
Monza
I believe it
2020.
was Monza. There's gonna be some unnecessary hype around them. So yes,
Oh,
I tend to agree. I do think Pierre Gasly is overrated, and at this point, I don't see. I've talked a lot about because I used to be kind of on Gasly. I thought he was quality, but
I think
I
he's
don't know.
quality.
I
I
think
do
he's
say that.
quality as well, but is he like gets a seat in a legit contender team, not a B team, or is he a guy who in 2 years is just kind of phased out and he goes and races in, IndyCar, or he goes and races in Formula E or something like that,
Yeah.
where he's
And
still like at the sort of, like he's still a quality driver, but maybe he's not F1 quality. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think he deserves to be in F1. What the problem that I have personally is people and the power rankings. I think, first of all, the power rankings are terrible, but that's a different story. But like
Yeah.
in those sets of rankings, he's like in the top 5. And for me, for him to be in the top 5, that means he's better. He's beating someone who should be in the top 5. Because say what you want, Verstappen, Hamilton, 2 best drivers on the grid,
Yeah,
right?
easily.
And then you've got Norris, easily the 3rd best on the
I think
grid.
so. Yeah,
And then you've got Leclerc,
I
who's
would say
pretty good.
Leclerc. Yeah,
You've got uh Sainz, who's pretty good. You've got Perez, who's pretty good. You've got people who don't play as well but are really good drivers,
Daniel
like
Ricciardo.
Daniel Ricciardo or George Russell.
Sure.
And then people are like, yeah,
Yeah,
Gasly's
George
better
George
than
Russell is
those.
so hard to factor into those because he like never scores points.
Yeah,
Although he did get some this weekend. Good for him. 4 points.
yeah,
4 points on the
exactly.
season.
But you
I'm
see
looking at
my
this.
point.
I see your point. I actually just kind of wanted to look at the standings to see where Pierre was in the driver standings
The,
this year, and
the
obviously driver standings is what it is.
yeah,
It's very car dependent, but he is currently sitting eighth,
yeah,
with 50 points. He
uh-huh,
is ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, barely.
uh-huh,
They're tied
yeah,
with 50 points. He's ahead of both Alpines, so even with Esteban Ocon's win today, he
yeah.
is not ahead of Pierre Gasly in the driver standings. He's also ahead of Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, and his teammate Yuki Tsunoda.
And
So,
Lance Stroll.
who's that?
Lance Stroll is
Oh
Lance
yeah, he's
Stroll
also
and
ahead of Lance Stroll.
Sonoda tied right now.
Yeah, he's ahead of both Aston Martins, both Williams, both
Mm-hmm.
Alfa Romeos, both Haas's, and he's ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So he's not having a bad year.
No, but to tack into all the other facts, like I said, got to bring in a lot of facts. Then you look at the top 8. Uh, you've then got Charles Leclerc with 80, so that's quite a bit above Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly. Sainz with 83, Sergio with 104. Bottas, I don't think he's that good. I'm just gonna pass over that.
He's a bad driver in a good car.
Yeah,
No, he's a
Lando
mediocre driver
Norris
in a good car.
with 113, Max Verstappen with 187, and then Lewis Hamilton just under 200.
Well, I mean these standings are going to be very top heavy, but I think it is interesting that he's tied with a guy who we thought would be
Yeah,
quite a bit higher in Daniel Ricciardo. And I understand, new car. This is his first year in the car, so
yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'll propose this question. Is that because Gasly is doing well or because Ricardo's not doing enough? Because I'd
that's a
argue the latter.
that is a great question, and I absolutely agree with you on that. That is an excellent way to put it. I did not think about it like that.
So
All right,
yeah,
yeah,
that's my into the paddock question.
I like that.
This-
That was good. I wanted to talk because one of the first things that came to my mind was when essentially one guy causes almost half of the grid
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
not score any points, and especially crippling your team's main rival,
Yeah.
Max Verstappen.
And Red Bull. Don't forget
And
Perez is a
yep,
main
yeah,
rival of
you're right.
Mercedes.
Perez. I sometimes forget about Sergio Perez because he never speaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and knocking one of your main rivals out, crippling another. Should Mercedes be penalized?
It's
Like
tough.
in the team standings, I don't think. Um, I don't know. Maybe I could also see maybe um penalizing Bottas a few or but yeah
Which they
Bottas a
did,
few
mind
points.
you. I think it's a 5 place grid penalty. Uh
Next race.
yeah, I believe so. I can Google it real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
Uh let me see. No, that's yeah, 5 plays grid penalty for the next race.
Okay.
So Bottas is penalized.
Penalized. Okay. I guess I like that. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know how I stand. So to answer your question, to jump into the question, right?
Yeah. Answer the question.
First of all, it's tough because it is it's there's no way in my mind that it's intentional. I don't think Mercedes could pay Valtteri enough to have him purposely do that. I
Him
don't think he has
kamikaze
that
in.
low of a standard for himself
No.
or want to do that to other drivers. So it's unintentional. There's no doubt in my mind it's unintentional. But it still happened, right?
Yep.
So I think, first of all, I'm glad they penalized Bottas. He should be penalized. There's no doubt in my mind
I
about
think so
that.
too. Yeah.
I'm on the bandwagon, and this may be a little aggressive, that it should be worse than 5 places. I personally think he should be out of the next race because that's what he
Ooh.
did for 3, almost 4 other drivers.
Okay. I don't know if I would go that far.
That's
Maybe
why I said I might be a bit aggressive.
that's aggressive. 5 places I could see a little bit harsher. Maybe starting from the pit lane. Maybe make him start from
Mm-hmm.
the back.
Mm-hmm.
5 places. You're right. Doesn't seem maybe quiet enough. But
Yeah.
the FIA just plays so fast and loose with these rules.
It's weird.
Like they could literally just tomorrow be like, yeah, Mercedes gets penalized 10 points, and I'd be like, nice. And
I
Mercedes
don't.
just like can't say anything about it. Like there's no like I don't know if there's like if anybody has set a precedent for something like this. I would
Yeah.
assume not. We can't like look in the history and see if
No, I don't
somebody
think so.
made half the grid crash and then they maybe docked him a few points. I would love to see it personally as a Mercedes hater, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I just thought it was interesting, and I am glad that they are penalizing Bottas. I think he
I
deserves
agree.
that
I
for
agree.
all of the carnage
Even though
and
it's an
making that
accident,
race.
it still
It
happened.
doesn't matter. You still get ticketed if you get into an accident.
I could be behind Mercedes getting penalized. Uh, like you said, you're a Mercedes hater. I don't like them, but I'm trying to not be a hater, you know?
I'm a hater. I'm a
But,
hater.
like, I could be behind it because, and this was kind of an into the paddock question, but at the end of the year, if Hamilton loses, or if Verstappen loses to Hamilton by anything under 20 points, the only thing I'm going to bring up in the years to come is how many times Hamilton lost this year outside of his control. So not only did he
You
get
mean how many
crashed by
times
Hamilton,
Vettel did, or excuse me, Verstappen did?
Verstappen, yeah, did I say Hamilton? My
You
bad.
said Hamilton. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know who
Verstappen.
you meant though.
Not only did he get crashed out by Hamilton and British, which you can argue, blah blah blah, whatever. It was Hamilton's fault.
Definitely
He
was Hamilton's
popped
fault.
a tire in first place, dominating in Azerbaijan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then this one, where he gets crashed into. I hate to do this, but it will be the only thing I bring up if he loses with under like 20 points, is the fact that he crashed 3 times outside of his control. And that's kind of why I think Mercedes should be penalized, because not necessarily Hamilton, but Mercedes just caused a massive crash. They caused a crash last race in the British GP,
Yep.
and we're not seeing them get penalized for any of this. We're seeing the drivers get penalized, but barely. I mean, Hamilton got what, a 5-second penalty?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, it is non-existent.
For
So
knocking his main rival out of the race, he gets 5-second
yeah,
penalty.
yeah,
Or like a stop and go.
it's crazy. I
That's
don't.
crazy.
Yeah,
I'm always down for penalizing Mercedes. Anything to make those silver bastards, put them in their place. All
yeah.
right. Let's kind of expound on that since we're kind of already talking about what we're hopefully not going to be talking about at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what do you think this second half of the season is going to look like, Chase? I mean, do you see either team falling off? I mean, like
No way.
I don't like this is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be a dogfight to the end.
It will be.
We've
Yeah,
got. I just want to go through this calendar
yeah.
to see how many we have left. So we've got Belgium, we've got the Netherlands, Max Verstappen's home race. We've got Italy, we've got Russia, Turkey. Japan has been canceled, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that's still on the
Sad.
docket. We got the U.S., we got Mexico, we got Brazil. We've got one to be determined. I don't know who that's going to be. We've got Saudi Arabia and we've got Abu Dhabi.
That's 11.
That's 11. A lot of good tracks in here.
Yeah.
A lot of good ones. I'm looking at obviously Spa, Francorchamps is an iconic track. Can't wait for that one. Netherlands, Max Verstappen's home race. He's very good on that track.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Monza.
Leclerc's pretty good on that one.
Leclerc is pretty good on that one.
But
Well,
yeah,
Ferrari,
so
just love that one. Brazil, I'm a big Brazil
I
fan.
like
I love
Brazil.
that track.
I like driving
And
on
Mexico
that.
too. I'm a big Mexico guy. I love that track as well. Love to see something, maybe Sergio Perez winning in Mexico, his home race. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of these. I mean, we've got a couple boring ones in there. Obviously, we got Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia is kind of boring. The Abu Dhabi track. Oh wait, no, I think they made some changes to Saudi Arabia. I think they they changed that kind of first big corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see
I think
what
they
those
also
look
did
like.
that to Abu Dhabi, by the way. They changed a bit of it. I could
Uh,
be wrong,
I don't
but
think we've seen Abu Dhabi before. I think Abu Dhabi is new this year.
oh, is it the new Abu Dhabi one? Because
No,
Abu Dhabi is not new itself.
you are right. I got those two mixed up. I'm very sorry. Abu
Yeah,
Dhabi is Yas Marina. Saudi
yeah,
Arabia is the new one
yeah, exactly.
in
Yeah,
Jeddah. It might not be new, but I
it's new
haven't.
to F1,
It's new
or
enough. It's new
it
enough.
hasn't been here in a while.
Got it. Got it. It's a new to us
Yeah,
as newer fans.
yeah,
Should be interesting. Yeah, a couple boring ones, but a couple bangers.
yeah.
Netherlands, I like. Obviously, Monza, the Temple of Speed, the best nickname for a track in Formula One.
Oh
Doesn't
yeah,
get much better than that. I'm Chase. I'm really excited. I know we've been kind of on a downturn because we've had the whole month of August off,
yeah,
but I am very excited for Spa. And
yeah.
man, I'm looking forward to Monza. I'm looking forward to the United States race, obviously. Man, the second half of the season is going to be good. And if Red Bull can keep the pace, which I think they will. I really do.
I
I think
think they
this is
will.
going to
Yeah,
be a fight to the end. They're going to be fighting like dogs, Chase.
yeah.
What do you think?
I think so too. Real quick to get back on the tracks, what they changed, 4 turns. I don't know how many turns it would be counted as on Abu Dhabi. They changed uh the right before the large straight. They changed how you kind of zip around that. It's now just a turnaround.
Good.
Uh, and then they changed some of the last corners to be more flowy. So it looks like they're trying to just make the track faster
Good.
rather than more challenging. I don't know
Yeah,
whether that'd be good or not, but we'll see.
the biggest complaint I've heard, and I sort of agreed with Abu Dhabi, was there was just no spots to overtake.
Mm-hmm.
There was just kind of that one big long straight,
Yep.
and that was pretty much it. So
Yeah,
there was a
they're
lot of
changing that
yeah,
because it's less bob and weavy now. You can actually change positions in the corner because you're not going left, right, left.
yeah.
You're going left.
Mm-hmm.
So
That yeah,
we'll see.
that's exactly what it needed is a couple of turns where you can overtake. So excited
Mm-hmm.
to see that. Excited to see the new look
Mm-hmm.
Abu Dhabi.
But yeah,
All right, Chase. To cap off our episode, which is I think we're okay on time.
Yeah, we should be good.
I was browsing the F1 website before we started recording, and I found a really fun piece written by Will Buxton, one of the F1 digital presenters,
Mm-hmm.
posted on the 18th.
Yep.
This was an opinion article titled "My Just for Fun Prediction of What the 2025 F1
Oh,
Grid Will Look
wow.
Like." 2025 F1 Grid. So this is a prediction 4 years in the future
Yeah,
from
that's a
Mr.
long
Buxton.
time.
And I thought it was really, really interesting. So his first prediction is Red Bull, who is going to stick. And again, this is in 4 years' time.
Yeah.
They're going to stick with their guy, Max Verstappen. He's still going to be on Red Bull, but instead of Sergio Perez, his teammate will be Lando Norris.
First of all, the prediction of Red Bull keeping with Verstappen, that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
I love that, though. I love that. I don't know if Lando will do it, but I love that. Or if McLaren will do it either, personally.
Yeah, that's my deal is like how. I mean, obviously Red Bull have the money, but McLaren are not. McLaren
Yeah.
have quite a bit of money. They are
Yeah,
not
and
just
for
going to
that
let. Yeah.
for that to happen, McLaren have to stop buying Lando Norris, which would be one of the dumbest things they could do. Unless like Lando Norris just starts dying in the next 4 years. And then Lando has to say, "Yeah, I'm fine being a second place driver to Verstappen." Because my prediction for 2025 is Lando's going to be fighting for championship. So,
I think so too. I think McLaren are on the rise, will continue to rise under their current leadership. I feel like I've talked about their
yeah.
Zach Brown and Andreas Seidel. All like I've talked my full head off about them, but I think they're fantastic, and I think they'll continue to win. This prediction is. I love
Wild.
Max still at Red Bull, but Lando Norris is probably never going to leave McLaren as long as McLaren is still on the rise,
And
and I
as
think they will be forever.
as long as he's still performing well.
As
Which
long, yeah,
I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying there's
I
that caveat.
I think McLaren will stop I will think McLaren will stop progressing before Lando Norris
I
becomes a
agree.
worse driver. That is more likely for my mind. This is kind of a boring one, but he believes that Ferrari in 2025 will still have Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz as their team, which Ferrari have been so mixy matchy with their drivers as of late. Although they did keep Sebastian Vettel around for probably a couple more seasons than he should have been there.
Mm-hmm.
But they do obviously both of these drivers, I believe, are under 24, right? Carlos is a little bit older than Charles, but not
Oh,
by.
I meant like contracts, the
No, no,
actual
no.
age.
In
Sorry.
this, in this quote unquote simulation, in 2025, Carlos would be 30 and Charles would be 27 still. So, I mean, this is
Charles is 23 right now.
so then that makes Carlos 26.
I don't know. I'm just
Oh
gonna
yeah, I think that's right.
I'm just gonna pull it up.
That would be.
Yeah, 26.
I think this one's plausible. I think both these drivers really like driving for Ferrari. I mean, Carlos Sainz obviously like one of the big reasons he joined was because he was like, I've always wanted to drive for Ferrari. Charles
Mm-hmm.
Leclerc is obviously Ferrari's golden boy. They're going to keep him for as long as they can.
Yeah.
So I think this one's very possible.
I think it's very possible too, but I disagree with Sainz. I
You
think
don't
they're
think?
gonna pick up Mick by then.
Ooh,
I
that's a good point.
And that kind of goes off of this last race. Like I said, Mick fought to keep Verstappen behind him in a Haas. And there's not much you can do. But you could tell by the way he was fighting, he's a good racer. And that's
Mick,
4 years from now. Haas gets their crap together and we can actually start to judge the skill of the two drivers on Haas. Ooh, you know?
Mick the prick. You know how he's doing. All right, this is a fun one. This is probably my favorite. Mercedes, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis Hamilton retired.
Uh-huh.
In his place, George Russell
Uh-huh.
and Daniel Ricciardo. This is a wild one. This
I
is a wild one.
disagree.
I think George Russell is definitely going to be Mercedes' long-term replacement for Lewis Hamilton. I think
Agreed.
he's got championship pedigree. George Russell does.
Yeah.
He just does. He just looks like a
He
world
is
champion.
one of the best racers on the grid.
Yeah. So
I disagree with Daniel. I don't think Daniel's around 2025, and if he is, he's not on Mercedes.
I think
Just
so too.
saying.
In this simulation, he predicts that Sergio Perez, after leaving Red Bull, goes to Mercedes for a few years, and then Daniel Ricciardo joins and replaces Sergio Perez in 2024,
I
which is an
think
interesting take. I don't know. This is a tough one for me.
I think if Perez gets dropped by Red Bull, which he will eventually, whether it's justified or not, we'll see. Red Bull. Uh, I don't think he goes to Mercedes. I think he goes mid pack. I think this is his final height of his career.
Mm.
Not that he's a bad driver, but he's up there in age, and after a big team drops him, Mercedes, we know, wants to get people who are dominating. Well, maybe we know that Bottas is on their team right now. But I think Red Bull drops Perez. Let's say he stays in, he gets picked up by a mid pack again, because that's mid pack will go. Ooh, someone who can earn us points and try and grab
Yeah,
him.
he's very consistent. Okay, we're getting into the nitty gritty and some drivers that probably not everybody has heard of if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
constantly pay attention to F1, F2,
Mm-hmm.
and to be fair, in the IndyCar
Yeah.
series, which I keep my eye on a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, McLaren,
Uh huh.
Pierre Gasly, and Patricio O'Ward. I don't know if you know who that is.
No
Chase, do
idea.
you? No
I,
idea.
I I don't have enough time to follow F1 and F2.
And no problem. Well, Patricio Award is not in, or Pato Award is what they call him.
Mm-hmm.
Is not in F2 right now. He's actually racing an IndyCar
Mm.
for the Arrow IndyCar team, which is a McLaren subsidiary. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
McLaren racing team, but it's called Arrow. There's been
Yeah.
talks about him coming to F1 for a couple years now. He's still pretty young,
Mm-hmm.
so this simulation has Norris leaving in 2022 and Pato Award joining the team in
Gasly.
2023. So that I don't know, that's interesting. I think that could be.
It's interesting. I think if Gasly gets well, we said this 5 minutes ago. The Lando's not leaving McLaren. But I think
I
if
don't think so.
if Gasly gets on McLaren, I I don't know if it's I don't know. I just Gasly Gasly has two career choices right now, which is either he goes up a team or this is his career. You know.
Yeah, I think so. Um, a couple of notable people that he still believes will be in F1. We've got Alpine still hanging on to Esteban Ocon,
Mm-hmm.
who will
Agreed.
have firmly established himself as a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Agreed.
got AlphaTauri with two brand new drivers. We've got
Mm-hmm.
Williams with two brand new drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Alfa Romeo, they believe, will be fielding Mick Schumacher
Mm.
and somebody who you might recognize, Arthur Leclerc, Charles Leclerc's younger brother, who is, I believe, he's racing either in Formula 2 or Formula 3, but is looking good.
Oh yeah.
So
Let me
that could be
let me
interesting.
see.
That could be interesting.
I can
I don't know.
see. Or you go first. Yeah.
I don't know if I see Mick all the way still in Alfa Romeo. I feel like he will have his shot at probably at Ferrari by then.
Yeah.
But
That
who knows?
that's pretty close to exactly what I was gonna say. I was literally gonna say I can see Mick at Alfa Romeo, but sooner. I don't think it's 4 years later because that's that's assuming that for the next 3 years he's still driving for Haas. I don't think that's how that works. You know, just not how it works, but I don't think that's how Ferrari views Mick.
Yep. All right, Chase. We've got the Belgium Grand Prix this weekend, the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Obviously, Spa. Classic track. Great track. Can't wait.
Uh-huh.
Who is your top three? Who do you got?
I mean, at this point, part of me doesn't care to play safe anymore. I'm just gonna
Balls to the wall.
go. I'm just gonna go Perez, Signs, Lando.
Perez, Sainz, and Lando. What happens? Do you think
I,
Max and Lewis
I
crash each other out of this race?
Oh yeah, because like you said, it's gonna be a dogfight. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Max is pissed off that he's lost out on close, 40-ish points. I think Max is gonna play super aggressive, and I hate to phrase it this way because I hate to be this negative, but I think Lewis is going to play dumb in the sense of he played dumb in the British Grand Prix, in my opinion. He was the reason they crashed because he wanted to do that, not because he thought he owned, air quotes, the corner or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they crash each other out. I think Bottas is not a good driver.
I love that you jumped on the no Bottas train with me.
Well, it just gets every time like you see him in a dogfight, he loses. Like we saw it early on in this season. He was fighting Verstappen.
Yep.
He lost it like immediately. It wasn't.
every
It
time.
was like 2 turns, and Verstappen was in front of him.
I will die on this hill that Valtteri Bottas is a mediocre driver in a
Yeah.
fantastic car.
Yeah.
All right. I see us kind of. I mean, we've had our break. We've had our time. I see us getting back to. I think we see what we have been seeing. I think Max is going to take this one. I think he'll probably take it by quite like this will be a good win. He wants to get back. He wants to say, "Hey, we've had a couple shaky races. I'm back. Okay, this is going to be Max's I'm back race. I think Lewis is going to get second. I think Valtteri Bottas will come in third. I think this race will be generally uneventful. Hopefully, that's what I'm praying for.
Well,
all right, Chase.
Uneventful and like we don't want to see anyone crash.
We don't want to see anybody crash because then it gets boring.
And it's no fun for the racers. Like I always,
no fun.
It's got to be the most disappointing thing when you get to race like 19 times in a year and you get crashed out or you crash yourself out.
That's a good point. Yeah, they really don't race that much, do they?
No.
It must suck. Plus, those cars are so stinking expensive. I could not live with myself if I ever crashed one of those. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they get paid a lot, but yeah.
I know they get paid, but I mean, like crashing one of those things, like I would not want to get. Obviously, they don't like pay the bill for the car or anything. But if every driver had to like see a breakdown of everything of the expenses that he just like crashed, I think we'd see a lot of guys driving a little bit more cautiously.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
Well, all right, Chase. It was an excellent time chatting with you. I don't know. Maybe I'll see you again next week.